What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another video. This is one I've been meaning to get out for a long time, and this is going to be a video of me soloing every OP10 raid legitimately with Zer0. By legitimately, I mean without glitches or exploits and without gibbed gear, so this will all be with legitimately obtained gear. Now, I did just want to quickly show the highlights of Digistruct Peak here. You can see this more of this run in my Melee Zer0 guide, which I will link in the description if you want to check it out. It uses the Love Thumper and the Ruby, which a lot of people think you need a Hide of Terramorphous and a Grog Nozzle for Melee Zer0 to be really strong on OP10, but as you can see, that is not true. Now, in these runs, I tried to show a mix of mastery of all of Zer0's playstyles, so I do 4 Sniper Zer0 runs, 4 Gun Zer0 runs, and 3 Melee Zer0 runs. So as you can see, I did do Digistruct Peak with the Blooming Blades Melee Zer0 build here that also uses the Pimpernels. Like I said, you can check that out if you want to. And I'm going to do these raids in order of how quickly I could get through them, just to show more in a shorter period of time. So as you can see, here we are with Haderax. And this was with Gun Zer0. Unfortunately, Gearbox made Haderax have really high slag resistance. So despite the fact that I spammed a bunch of highly slaggous grenades, he didn't get slagged at all. But Zer0 is such a beast that I was still able to finish him in one cycle. Just downed him with the Sandhawk and then finished him off with the conference call. Even threw another slag grenade and it still didn't work. Really annoying design decision, Gearbox. But anyway, that's Haderax. Very generous farm if you want to take him out. This is not the easiest method for beating him, it's just the fastest. I did do another video on him where I beat him with OP0 gear. I'll also link that if you want to check it out. And then, of course, here we are with Terramorphous. I did a Sniper Zer0 run here because Critical Ascension does just absolutely shred Terramorphous. You can see how quickly his health's going down, even from starting with very low Critical Ascension. This was, like I said, all these runs were not with gibbed gear. I've also done a raid boss speedrunning video. I'll also link that if you want to check it out. That was not with gibbed gear. The only raid bossing video I've done with gibbed gear was that 75-second Ancient Dragons kill. Which, hey, I'll also link that if you want to check that out. My fastest time with gibbed on the dragons was 75 seconds. My fastest time without gibbed was 85 seconds. So that's a pretty accurate representation of what perfect gear actually does. And this Terramorphous kill I could have got quite a bit faster if I'd been playing a bit better. But, you know, we got him done pretty quickly. Terramorphous and Haderax are both a lot of fun. They're 2 of my favorite raids. And then we'll move on to Pete. He's also another one of my favorites. Pete is pretty easy, but he's still a lot of fun to fight. So just shoot his face shield off, and then of course you can gain stacks of critical ascension very easily. If you shoot his face shield off really quickly, or with one shot, he'll usually walk at you like that with his arms down. So that's a good opportunity to get a lot of stacks of critical ascension. Then of course once you break his face shield, or you knock his face shield off, he will do a double Nova, so you have to hide behind the scaffolding to avoid that. And I'm just trying to keep him slagged up and get Kuna on him so I can keep taking him out. I think this kill was about 57 seconds, which is pretty decent, but you know, a lot of room for improvement. I believe the world record is like 34 seconds for glitchless Zer0 run. So yeah, definitely one maybe I can try to come back down the road and improve on. But anyway, we go ahead and take him out. I've also beat him with OP0 gear. If you want to check that video out, I'll link it in the description. And then here are the dragons. So we're starting with basically all of my favorite raids. Like I said, I think this kill ends up being about 85 seconds. So you can kill them pretty quickly if you get the sweet spot with the Lauda where the pellets will split. And you can actually take Healing It out in one magazine. Depending on your parts, you don't even have to use the Chaotic Neutral Rogue. I did go ahead and use it there just for the guarantee that I could finish him off. I do prefer the Chaotic Evil Rogue comm overall for this fight. Now I was missing a lot of my shots there against Boost. Sometimes his little head there is hard to see because it blends in with his attack. But then I go ahead and make Brood land. Try to take him out quickly before he spawns too many babies, or she, whatever. Also miss some of my shots here, and then whenever I'm about to go down sometimes and I have an enemy really weak, I'll just let them down me so I can easily get a second wind off of them. Then luckily I had enough ammo to make Incinerator land before I went to get more ammo from this relic. Like I said, I think this time was about 85 seconds with non-gibbed gear, and my best time with gibbed gear was 75 seconds. So at this point I'm just trying to take the babies out, pick up my shotgun off the ground so I can maintain my stacks of critical ascension. Then we get slag and kunai on him, and we can take him out pretty quickly. Incinerator can be a big time waster because of his forced AoE attack, but we got it done pretty quickly. Now I believe we will move on to Vermivorous. I just did a Gun 0 build against him. Vermi is pretty easy. He cannot be slagged, which is really, really unfortunate. If you're playing a Zer0, you can easily bore him if you spawn him in the Caustic Caverns, which is what I did in the speedrunning video. But like I said, I wanted all these kills to be legitimate, so I just B-hawked him. He's kind of hard to hit his crit spot, which there were probably some times I could have gone for it, and I just wasn't really focusing on it. Sometimes he just stands around, so don't know what that's about. Fighting him here is pretty easy because you do have that crate for cover, and you have those other minions to get second wins off of. But it's a little annoying because the ground is like really uneven. Like, Gearbox puts effort into the strangest things sometimes. Like, they really thought we needed to fill every slightly different elevation of the ground. And it's really just annoying because you'll end up getting stuck on the ground a lot. Plus, the minions attacking you and knocking you around can be really annoying too. That may be why Vermi stops on the ground. Maybe Vermi is getting stuck too, I don't know. Also, if you spawn Vermi in the... What is the map that Tiny Tina is in? The Tundra Express. You can actually kill Vermi by getting the train to hit him, so... Something you could try out. I don't know actually how easy or how difficult that is, but just a standard B-Hawk setup can take him out pretty easily. Zer0 is actually really good with the B-Hawk because he can boost Two-Fang and Velocity with the Chaotic Neutral Rogue, which also gives fire rate and mag size bonuses, so it just works out really nicely. But anyway, we took him out pretty easily there, and then I believe we'll be on to Crawmerax. Oh, I did get a Norfleet drop, yeah, that's right. Crawmerax, one of my least favorite raids. Well, I'd say Vermi is probably my least favorite because he's literally just a giant Varkid. Crawmerax does at least have a couple of crit spots that change the fight a bit when you knock the claws off. Not a fan of the forced elongated immunity phases where he also heals and also has forced mobbing sections. Kinda frustrating. But, you know, I do still like the fight overall. So, right there I was using the Fire Conference Call. So, Fire is actually a decent option against Crawmerax. What it is on Crawmerax's crit spots and his belly, he takes equal damage from Fire and Shock. But it's just on his back, he takes reduced damage from Fire. So, Shock is overall the best element to use against Crawmerax, but I haven't been lucky enough to get a Shock Conference Call yet, which is really frustrating. But like I said, I will show the full fight for most of these fights. For Gee, Hyperius, and Voracidous, I will speed up parts of them, but I won't do any cuts. That's just because once we get to Gee, it literally, I beat all the raids up to that point, all the raid bosses up to that point in a shorter amount of time than it took me to beat Master Gee. So, what I do in that fight is I just kill several of the sandworms, and then I run around the ring in a circle. I did this for one to show that that fight is pretty forgiving. It's a pretty easy fight in the sense that you can just disengage at any moment. But also so that I could shorten the length of the video. Because if I left the full fights in for Gee, Hyperius, and Voracidous without speeding them up, that would just be horrible for retention. And then also for Hyperius and Voracidous, I'll show like the first 10 minutes of normal gameplay. And kind of explain what I'm doing, and then I'll speed it up until I get them into killing blow range, just so that the video isn't much longer. It took me like 35 minutes to beat Voracidous legitimately with Melee Zer0, so yeah, very, very unfortunate fight. Of course, Gearbox did fuck up the raid bosses. Voracidous and Hyperius have double health compared to what they're supposed to have after the introduction of the Commander Lilith DLC, so that's really annoying. And I believe that does even apply from below OP10. So it's not a case of it just doubles on OP10. I'm pretty sure it's just messed up now and it's always doubled. I might be wrong about that, but that's what I've heard. So anyway, you can see we're making decent progress against Crawmerax. Like I said, a Shock Conference Call is like the best weapon against him. That will get you the fastest kill times, but I just have not been lucky enough to find one. I've got a fire conference call and a corrosive conference call, but I've never got a shock one. I've got mine from Haderax, by the way. He's a very generous farm. I've got multiple perfect Lyudas from him. So once you learn the fight, really, really easy way to get a lot of good loot. Then after we finish Crawmerax, we'll be on to Dexiduous. Both of them are kind of hard to speed kill because of the way the fights work. He is hard to speed kill legitimately, but of course you can gate crush him. And then Hyperius and Voracidous are also very hard to speed kill legitimately. They can both be god board. Hyperius is much easier. I've never been able to do it to Voracidous, but apparently it is possible. But anyway, there is Crawmerax done with a Gun Zer0 B-Hawk setup. And then we will move on to Dexiduous. Dexiduous does also take a while because when you pop his boils, you just have to wait for them to respawn, and you can't really do any damage to him until you do so. I did do a Sniper Zer0 setup here. I could have maybe done a Gun Zer0, like the Infinity and the Lady Fist are both pretty good for this. Well, more so the Lady Fist. As far as I know, Zer0 and Axton are the only ones who can kill Dexy faster than normal. If you saw my TD or Axton video, which I will link that in the description, Axton has special synergy against Dexy. There's typically no way to make Dexy take more damage when you pop the boils. He just takes a fixed amount of damage when you do it. But for some reason, Axton's grenade damage bonuses will make Dexy take a lot more damage. So, you know, like steady. So Axton can kill him faster than other characters. Now, the only other way that I know to make him take more damage is death mark. So if Dexy is death marked when you pop the boils, he will actually take more damage. So maybe a duo run with a Zer0 to death mark and an Axton to pop the boils with, you know, his grenade damage bonuses could be a pretty fast way to kill him. I'm not sure if this is still the case, but I think at one point there was like an exploit where you could die over and over to Dexy, and then when he respawned and came back into the fight, he would have a lot more boils, so you could kill him faster. I'm not really sure if that is still the case. I didn't want to do something like that in my speedrunning video because it was supposed to be with little to no setup, so that would have required a lot of setup. And those poison bomb attacks are really his only dangerous attack, by the way. This fight is, like, if you stay close to Dexy, it's easier to pop his boils, but he can also damage you a lot more easily. But, you know, if you stay far away, you have a lot more safety, but then it's a lot harder to hit your shots. So kind of a high-risk, high-reward fight where you have to balance those. I really wish they had done, like, one more thing to make this fight a bit more engaging. Something they could have done is, like, maybe when you pop the boils, maybe the boils were actually eggs, and little Dexys popped out, and then, you know, you could kill them, and he'd take a bit more damage. Or they could do something like they did with Haderax, like put, you know, a weak spot on each one of his leg joints, and then, like, once you did enough damage to each one of them, he would enter a down state where, you know, you could deal a lot more damage to him. Something like that. As the fight stands, it's not one of my favorites. I mean, it has grown on me, honestly, because, like I said, the high-risk, high-reward nature of the fight. But yeah, overall, definitely lacking, especially because Dexy drops no good loot. Well, I think he has a 1.5% chance to drop an interfacer. So that's about it. I have got a couple of choppers from him, but I've never got an elemental one. Plus he costs like 100 iridium to fight, so kind of some strange decisions from Gearbox there. I did get a pretty good Hyperion Allegiance relic from him when me and Starkiller did our duo run. Like I said, those poison bomb attacks are really his only dangerous attack. If he does them when you're really close to him, it can be really hard to avoid. But if you start sprinting as soon as you see him do it, you can usually survive. Which obviously, if you're above health gate, you're not going to die anyway. You do really want a corrosive immunity for this fight. If you don't have one, then those poison bombs can apply a corrosive dot to you. The corrosive immune B shield is also good for Crawmerax. He can apply a corrosive dot. It's also good for Gee and Voracidous. Wow, it's good for a lot of them. Oh, and Pyrocaustic. So now that I think about it, there's actually a ton of raid bosses that the corrosive immune B shield is really good for. These bee shields, I have actually two which have identical parts. I have this one with corrosive immunity and I have one with a fire immunity. They both have a torque body, which all bee shields are fixed with a torque body, and then they both have a Malawon capacitor, although one is, you know, corrosive and one is fire. And then the other part on them is Bandit, which is the worst possible roll, I think. So definitely a lot of improvement for these bee shields, but you know, they're plenty good enough for what I need them to do. Yeah, like I said, with Dexy, you just kind of have to wait for the boils to spawn. Unfortunately, there's no real way to speed up the fight aside from making sure you're death marking him. So I probably missed a few opportunities to do that. I also see that Poison Bomb, really dangerous attack. Mobs do keep spawning during this fight, so that can be really annoying, especially if those two-legged drifters spawn. They can be pretty hard to deal with while you're trying to fight Dexy. And I did start this fight with a stockpile relic. That was just so I wouldn't have to go buy ammo. Fortunately, I was able to scavenge some ammo, so I didn't have to go back to the lodge to get it. Which honestly, it's not that big of a deal because you can just kill time by going back to the lodge to get ammo while you wait for more boils to spawn. You can also hide under the lodge to avoid most of his attacks. Sometimes they can get through from certain angles, but you know, you'll usually be safe. So you can see here, I was just, like I said, scavenging for ammo, waiting for more boils to spawn. Unfortunately, I was able to get enough ammo. So see, if he does a poison bomb when you're really close to him, it's really hard to avoid. But I had my share of meat here to try and get my health back up, to stay above health gate so he couldn't fuck me. Honestly, like I said, Gun Zero probably would have been easier to take him out with, just the Lady Fist and the Bee Shield. But like I said, I did try to want to do an even mix of sniper, gun, and melee kills. So like I said, this lodge right here does provide a lot of safety when you're under it, not if you're inside of it. If you're inside of it, you will actually take damage from those attacks, which is kind of annoying when you need to buy ammo. So I think I just need to pop one more at this point, and that will be the end of the fight. Yep, and I did get a chopper, by the way, but like I said, it was non-elemental. And now here we are with the Master Gee fight. You want to make sure he doesn't have Malawon parts, because they will accelerate the projectile speed. I'll put up a display of what those look like, so you can avoid that. If he has them, you can run back to the entrance and then come back in, and he will respawn with different parts. I really like the core mechanic of this fight, but in typical Gearbox fashion, they kind of fuck it up with the other stuff. So, for those of you who don't know, Hyperius and Master Gee both have forced 4-player scaling, and raid bosses do gain 100% more health for each player. So this means that they have 4 times the health they're supposed to have, both Master Gee and Hyperius, and that also extends to their minions, I'm pretty sure. And since Hyperius is glitched and has double health, I guess he basically has 8 times the health he's supposed to have, which is what makes the fight take so long if you do fight him legitimately. But the sandworms are also very tanky if you don't just do something like B-Hawk them. But yeah, this is basically it. You kill the sandworms, then you use a singularity grenade to make Master Gee absorb them. I'm also using the legendary hunter. This is so I could get my deception back more quickly, because you can throw your deception in the center of the puddles and Master Gee will absorb them. There's also no way to get ammo back in this fight, which is really frustrating. You can see I didn't have my corrosive immune Bee Shield in this fight, so it's very risky to fight him without that, because the sandworms can apply a corrosive dot to you. And if you go into fight for your life, for some reason Gearbox made it really annoying because the sandworms will repeatedly burrow and come back out of the ground. So it's basically impossible to get a second wind if you're playing alone. Maybe if you have a Fire Northly, you could do it. So be really careful. Like I said, you really ideally do want that corrosive immune Bee Shield. And for some reason, Master Gee randomly has 2 shields. I don't know what's up with that. Like, you pop the first one, and then he just randomly gets a second one. So like I said, I do like the core mechanic of this fight, but the forced 4-player scaling and the lack of ability to get ammo and, you know, the punishing nature of the sandworms is all kind of annoying. You also can't really deal damage to Master Gee. I think you technically can, but he just has so much health that you basically deal no damage to him at all. So that's really annoying. So you're better off like just letting the damage over time tick down. And so eventually if you run out of ammo, you'll just have to either hide behind the rock at the start, or if you feel like that's too cheesy, you can just run around the arena in a circle, which is what I eventually do. Like I said, just to show that this fight is pretty forgiving in that sense, and also so I could speed up the fight so I didn't have to show the full thing. Like I said, there won't be any cuts if for some reason, you know, people think I would like cheat by cutting it somehow, so I'll just speed it up by like 10 times. Oh, I should also talk about the epilepsy warning. During the Hyperius section, I'll put a time code up right now. I end up speeding up the fight and I'm using the Love Thumper because, like I said, this is all with legitimately obtained gear. So the Love Thumper is flashing its novas over and over again. So if that could be bothersome to anybody, like I said, feel free to skip to the end of that section. I will have the timestamps up for that. But also the sandworms have a bug where if you get too close to them, they will burrow, and then when they come back out of the ground, their hit detection will be all messed up, and like a lot of things won't hit them. Like fastballs will go right through them, TD chucks will go through them. You can't hit them with like direct hits from like the Topnia. So a lot of that stuff is really annoying. So like I said, at this point, I think I just decide to start running around the arena in a circle. And doing this will, like I said, allow me to show that the fight is pretty forgiving, and also it will allow me to speed up the fight. I did equip my Caustic Immune Big Boom Blaster, just because in case I do get hit by a sandworm, I don't want to take a corrosive dot and die, so I highly recommend that. Because a ton of sandworms will spawn, so you do have to be careful. You also want to keep Slag on Master Gee if you can, and Deathmark. Deathmark is a bit harder, but he will take increased damage from that stuff from the damage over time from the acid pulls. But yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. I mean, this is a cool fight. The idea behind it is cool, but in typical Gearbox fashion, they kind of mar it with really frustrating decisions. Honestly, like, Digistruct Peak has started to sour on me. I mean, I like it with like really specific setups with like Sniper Zer0 and Melee Zer0. There's just an abundance of things that are really annoying to deal with for solo players. And obviously these raids were meant for multiplayer, but like it's one thing to make content designed for multiplayer, but another thing to be actively punishing to solo players. What I'm getting at is, like, Digistruct Peak has, well, I mean, first of all, Master Gee has forced 4-player scaling, a lack of ability to get ammo, and it's really hard to get second wins. All of that stuff is less of an issue in multiplayer. Also, he will spawn a shield at 25% HP, which will give you health regeneration if you stand inside of it. But like, Digistruct Peak has like an abundance of really tanky enemies that you have to flank behind to crit, like giant spider ants and stuff like that. I wish they would just pick one of those things, like either make them hard to crit, you have to flank to crit them, or give them a lot of health. Giving them both is just kind of annoying to deal with. And then stuff like Dukino's mom and the double Saturns is just really annoying, and all of the surveyors that can spawn. There's just a lot of stuff like that. But anyway, there you can see there's Master Gee dead. Like I said, cool idea, pretty forgiving fight, but some typical Gearbox magic does hold the fight back quite a lot. And then we'll go ahead and move on to Hyperius here. So I do use melee against Hyperius here. I use my Love Thumper because, like I said, this is all legitimately obtained gear, and it's obviously very difficult to get a grounded hide of Terramorphous. But I do use gun Zer0, or I use guns to kill the loaders, and then I use melee Zer0 for Hyperius. Now, I do leave one loader alive. That is to avoid Hyperius going into rage mode, because if you kill all the loaders, he will go into rage mode early. If you leave one alive, he won't do it until he's like to his final 25% health, I believe. But you can see I'm able to deal damage to these guys pretty quickly. I think they wear off slag really quickly, so I just wasn't bothering with it. Some people like to leave one of the minions at like a sliver of health, so you can second wind off of them. However, if you're using the Love Thumper, the fight takes so long that you'll actually end up killing them with the Explosive Nova. Even though it's very weak compared to how much health he has, the fight takes so long, you end up doing so many Novas that you can actually kill him. So I would recommend not doing that strategy. Now, I did use the Grog Nozzle and heal swapping in this fight and the Voracidous fight. Those are not things I typically like using, but the extremely punishing nature of these fights kind of forced me to do so. The messed up health and the double health gaining Novas every few seconds is very, very annoying to deal with. Dick move, Gearbox. But yeah, like I said, take these guys out with gun, Zer0, and then I'll show like 10 minutes of normal footage of how I fought Hyperius with melee, and then I'll speed up the rest until I get to killing blow range. Unfortunately, this part is not very exciting. Like I said, you're just trying to take out the loaders. I mean, the melee portion is not very exciting either, which this fight would be a lot better if he actually had the amount of freaking health he's supposed to have, which is like 1/8 of what he has now, which I assume also applies to the bots. Well, I think normal enemies gain 50% health for each additional player. So since they're forced into 4-player mode, they have plus 200% health, I guess. But yeah, this fight would have been a lot better without that stuff. Like I said, I did use the Grog Nozzle, although again, this is not with gibbed or anything, it's just keeping the quest active. I typically don't like using the Grog just because of how people talk about it like you have to. I think the only things I ever use it for are to beat Hyperius and Voracidous legitimately and for doing the Digistruct Peak skip. But anyway, like I said, just taking these guys out. I don't particularly like to weaken the last loader because you will accidentally kill him with the Love Thumper. And Hyperius, Gee, and Voracidous are all really time consuming to beat legitimately. Like I said, I beat all of the other raid bosses in a shorter amount of time than I beat any of these guys. So I beat Haderax, Terramorphous, Pyrocaustic, Ancient Dragons, Vermivorous, Crawmerax, and Dexiduous, all in a combined lower amount of time than it took for me to beat Master Gee alone, or Hyperius alone, or Voracidous alone. So very unfortunate. Just a second here, I think I wrote down the times it took to kill these guys. If I can find it in my little notebook here. Where are you, notebook? Okay, so yeah, Haderax was 17 seconds. That wasn't my fastest kill on him, but it was my fastest with non-sniper Zer0. I did my fastest kill in that speedrunning video. Terramorphous was 47 seconds. Pete was 57 seconds. Dragons were 85 seconds. Vermi was 105 seconds. Crawmerax was 219 seconds. Dexy was 397 seconds. And then once we get to Gee, he was 1014 seconds, which is pretty close to Hyperius. He was 1064 seconds. And then Voracidous was 2100 seconds, which is like 35 minutes. So, pretty cool stuff. Like I said, I do overall really enjoy these raids. I like to give Gearbox a hard time because some of this stuff is just really frustrating, and it feels like it would have been really easy for them to avoid some of this stuff. Like, I'm not even sure if Hyperius having forced 4-player scaling is a bug. I think they just intentionally did that. Because this sprung from, if you remember, people would come to the Hyperius gate or the Master Gee gate to activate 4-player scaling to make like farming Vermi easier. So it seems like they did this on purpose. But, you know, when we're talking about Gearbox, it could be done on purpose, it could be sheer incompetence, I don't know. Stuff like that is why it's hard for me to have much goodwill for Gearbox. Like, sometimes I feel like people are too harsh on them, and then I remember all this stuff. Oh, by the way, I think I don't really visit the Borderlands subreddits anymore for, you know, a few different reasons, but sometimes it'll get suggested to me. I think I saw Killer6 say that he's never seen anybody legitimately beat every OP10 raid without the use of gibbed. So here you go, Killer6. That's not meant to be like a snarky comment or anything, but he said he genuinely wanted to see it, so there you go. But you know, it's hard for me to have a lot of goodwill for Gearbox because of stuff like that, and also like the big one is increasing the level cap with the Commander Lilith DLC, which came out like 7 years after the game's release. Okay, so I'll just quickly explain what I'm doing here. Since I'm using the Love Thumper, a legitimate one, obviously I have a lot less damage than a Perfect Out of Terra. So I'm getting in as many attacks as I can. I keep the last bot between me and Hyperius so I can avoid his attacks, and then I wait for my executes. I get my executes in when I can, and then when I don't have them, I just melee Hyperius and walk backwards to get as much damage in as possible. The normal melee attacks don't do a ton of damage, but over the course of the fight they should add up. I think they do about 5% of an execute. But yeah, this is pretty much the whole fight. You just walk backwards and melee attack, and yeah, pretty boring. Again, the 8 times health, really annoying decision. You gotta be really careful. If you mistime your kunai, you can kill yourself on it, or you can throw it against his shield and it'll reflect back and hit you. So you gotta be really careful of that. Now, when this fight gets down to killing blow range, it gets really tricky because he will grow massive in size, and then again, Gearbox kind of messed up how execute interacts with large enemies. Sometimes your executes will deflect off of him and stuff. So be prepared with your chain lightnings to get your health back up. I actually died the first time I got him to killing blow range. But this fight is not as hard. I felt like it was hard at first until I beat Voracidous. Now I could do this fight with my eyes closed. But yeah, just be really careful when you throw your kunai. If you want to, you can swap to a slag transfusion grenade to try to slag him every now and then. You want to leave your chain lightning equipped for the most part for the regen and the healing. Like I said, not proud to have used the grog nozzle and heal swapping, but with such punishing game design, there was really no other option. I mean, the ruby probably would have worked, but I wanted absolutely every advantage on my side, you know, every advantage I could get without, you know, using gibbed gear and stuff like that. I was trying to see how much health that loader had so I could see how much he has when I get to the end of the kill. But so far I've not been able to tell how much health he has. But yeah, raising the level cap 7 years after the release of the game and making all your players refarm all their gear and stuff is just such a frustrating decision. Plus, like, we just didn't need all those extra skill points. I mean, that's subjective. Some people do like having as many skill points as possible. But then it giving us more OP levels, which nobody was asking for, and hurting the raids. Like, it's mainly the raids. Raiding was quite a bit easier and more fun, in my opinion, at 72 OP8. So kind of frustrating decision by Gearbox. And it's hard for me to believe that they really thought it was just what the players wanted. It's easy to be cynical and think they did it just to make people, you know, refarm all their gear to artificially inflate playtime. Like, I honestly might feel like the game would just be better if Commander Lilith DLC never existed. It's hard to say. So we're about to the sped up part. Like I said, I will put the timestamps on the screen. But I mean, the Commander Lilith DLC had a lot of good stuff. Haderax is one of my favorite raid bosses. We got some cool gear, which a lot of people didn't like, that most of the unique gear was like upgraded versions of other gear. Which I've seen some, literally saw somebody on Reddit, this is several months ago, they complained that there was no viable gear on OP10, which I have continually demonstrated is not true at all. There's a ton of viable gear on OP10. They complained about stuff like the Trespasser and the Kerblaster being too weak, which I can't agree with. I do wish both of those weapons had buffs. Well, for the Trespasser, it's mostly a utility weapon. But anyway, that's not the part that's a crazy take. They basically said that, but then went on to say that they disliked the Commander Lilith DLC because it introduced power-crept versions of those items. Now, you can have one of those opinions. You can have the opinion that you don't like it that those items were too weak, or you can have the opinion that you don't like that Gearbox introduced power-crept versions of them. You can't really have both of those opinions at the same time. But, I mean, I can see where people are coming from. The Commander Lilith DLC, it gave us Haderax, it gave us a really good Tubby farm, a really good legendary loot midget farm, some cool gear, even though if some people didn't like all of it. I really like the M2828 Thompson, or whatever that's called. I probably will cover it in a video eventually because it's so good. But it really fucked up a lot of stuff. Like, it made raiding a lot worse, especially for Hyperius and Voracidous having glitched double health when they already had too much health in the first place. those fights were a slog before the double health glitch. So you can see, like I said, this is at 10 times speed. And you can just see how many melee attacks it took. Like I said, I will slow this back down once we get him into killing blow range. I think the fight took like 15 minutes, something around that. Can't remember exactly. The Hyperius, or excuse me, the Voracidous fight did take like 35 minutes. Oh, okay, and here we are in killing blow range. So this is where it gets really tricky. So you gotta be prepared for this. Ideally, you'll have most of your grenades regen, because you can get your health back by heal swapping or with kunai. You can see any second now it should trigger killing blow, which he has so much health that even with the 1000% multiplicative damage from a 10 points in killing blow, it still takes a while to take him out. So you can see he knocks me back. I'm able to get my health back up. Trying to get close to him. I was lucky there and my first attack landed. You can see several of them missed because Gearbox did not really put much care in for how Execute interacts with large enemies. And right now I'm just trying really hard to stay above health gate. I switched to the rapier there for more damage, which was a mistake. I did get downed, but luckily Hyperius jumps, he puts his ass in my face, and I'm able to finish him off here, or I would have gone down. So really be careful. You probably will want to just keep attacking with the grog nozzle to keep your health up. But anyway, there is Hyperius soloed legitimately with melee 0. And then I will, you know, show the gear and stuff. Oh, this was before I got my better Love Thumper. This was with my one that had 3.8 million damage. I've since got a better one that has 4.2 million damage and a corrosive immunity. Which you have to have the corrosive immunity for this guy. Because he will hit you with the damage over time. Oh, and I just take out the Chief with an Amigo Sincero and a Beast Shield before I switch over to the melee setup. This Love Thumper is probably my most prized possession. I was really lucky with this. I got this in not a lot of attempts, and it had a corrosive immunity and then two Hyperion parts. Obviously a perfect one would have all Maliwan parts, but I believe Hyperion is the second best for the roid damage, so that was really nice. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I may have liked the game better overall if the Commander Lilith DLC didn't exist. It is still my favorite game. So I don't know. I probably, if I could choose for it to stay, I would probably allow it to stay. But they did introduce a lot of frustrating things with it. But anyway, I'll talk about this fight now. Guys, this was one of the hardest things I've ever done in any game. Like I've said before, I'm not saying that, you know, Gearbox is perfect or that OP levels are perfect. I have given many of my own criticisms of them, as you guys well know. And Voracidous is just... I don't know. Gearbox should be charged with terrorism for the horror they've inflicted on the world with this guy. I just do not know what they were thinking. He was a mess even before the double health glitch. This took me well over 100 attempts. I lost count of how many attempts it took. And I ended up not recording the first 5 minutes of this fight, so I had to stitch together 2 different runs. You'll notice that in this run I'm not using Iron Hand, and then in the run where I kill him I am using Iron Hand. The reason I did this was, guys, like I said, this took me so many attempts. Like, I would do some attempts, like, while I was doing chores, and if I died, then I would take a break, or, like, between sets while I was, like, working out, I would play a little bit, or I would, like, take a break to go eat. And what this meant was I was constantly starting and stopping OBS, and then on my successful run, I didn't have OBS going at first. But it's only, like, the first 5 minutes of the footage, so I just stitched 2 runs together. Some people may accuse me of cheating for that. It doesn't really make any sense. Like, there's still 30 minutes of raw footage of me fighting him, so I don't see how I could have cheated, although, you know, some people may accuse me of it. I'm gonna redo this eventually. Once I have more subs, I'm gonna do a 100% zero run, like a Man of Low Moral Fiber did, where he started out from level 1, then played to max level, farmed all the gear he needed, and then reset the game and did a 100% run. I'm gonna do that eventually, and when I do that, I'm gonna, you know, do all the raids legitimately, so I'll have to redo this eventually, and I'll make sure to actually record the full fight. But yeah, this is so difficult because if you miss a single hill swap, you are fucked. I didn't have a Fire Norfleet. You really need a Fire Norfleet for getting second wins in this fight. I tried for forever to get a Fire Norfleet, and I just never could. Now, I may do with a Fire Topnia, but it's just nowhere near as good. It's much harder to get a second win with the Fire Topnia, and I definitely took extra deaths that I wouldn't have taken if I had the Fire Norfleet, so highly recommend getting that before you do this fight. But anyway, he does those double health gating Novas every 13 seconds. So you can't use your Chain Lightning to heal every time because they won't regen fast enough. So you gotta have a Herald or something to heal swap with. I think I did end up using Velocity. I was kind of conflicted about whether or not I should use it or not, but I did use it. So this is the full fight. If you miss a single heal swap, you're probably gonna go down, and hopefully the minions are close enough to you that you can get a second wind, because they're not always. Now, you also cannot use a double penetrating Herald, or at least I was afraid to. This is because this fight takes so damn long that you will actually run out of pistol ammo to heal swap with if you use a double penetrating. So this is an OP9 hard, maybe? I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, you do not want double penetrating. And again, if you miss a single heal swap, you will go down. The main key to this fight is the timing on your deceptions. What I mean is, you want him to do his Nova basically right after you land your execute. So see right there, he had time to jump a lot, so that is not ideal. If he has too much time, what will happen is you will attack him, and then he will repeatedly attack you and down you. Because when he gets in your face, it's very hard to stay alive. So see right there, I was a hair too far behind and I missed my execute. Sometimes you gotta let your execute go. You have to prioritize staying alive in this fight over dealing damage. If you prioritize a sloppy execute, you'll die. So safety first. That was very close. I missed my first heal swap, but fortunately the minions were close enough for me to get my health back up. So I get an execute, and if he only has time to do one jump attack, that's not too bad. My timing is really off here, so I was trying to reset it. But yeah, ideally you want to, as soon as you land your execute, you want him to do the Nova. So this will knock you back and allow you to heal swap. Because of health gate, he cannot one-shot you. So as long as you're above health gate, you'll be okay. And you can see I'm just repeatedly trying to heal swap. And you gotta be perfect with that for like 35 minutes. I mean, I think if you're using perfect gear, and your execute timings are like dead on, you might be able to do it in like 20. So see, that was really good timing. See, he did the double Nova very shortly after I landed my execute, and so he doesn't have much time to attack you. If you do your execute too early, like I said, he'll have a bunch of time to attack you and he'll end up downing you. So you gotta be really careful. I mean, guys, just don't even do this to yourself. Don't do this to yourself. This is my favorite game. Zer0 is my favorite character in gaming. So I just wanted to do this just to say that I had legitimately soloed every OP10 raid with Zer0 without the use of gibbed or anything. But this was miserable, guys. This is literally the hardest thing I've ever done in gaming. And I've done a lot of hard stuff. I've beat, you know, old Monster Hunter games where they didn't have single player health scaling, like Event Fatalis quests. I did Godmaster and Hollow Knight with bindings. And none of that came close to how hard this was. It's just the fact that he has so much health that it takes so fucking long. Like, I don't understand what Gearbox was thinking with this fight. Like I said, even before the double health glitch, this was a mess of a fight. And the Commander Lilith DLC with the double health glitch just made it that much worse. So, yeah, I highly recommend going in with the mentality that it's going to take you a lot of attempts, and, you know, watching a TV show in the background or listening to a podcast or something while you do this. Obviously, you'll need to focus. That's another, like, hard part, is you have to stay locked in for so long. Because, like, if your focus slips for just a second, you'll miss time a hill swap, and then you'll get downed. So, you know, very, very brutal fight. If you're playing Zer0, I recommend just use a glitch. Just do like the Morningstar glitch combined with like the Critical Ascension glitch or the Rising Shot glitch. And, you know, don't torture yourself. If Gearbox can't be bothered to do better than this, then, you know, you shouldn't be bothered either. If Voracidous only had like a fraction of the health he had, I think this could be a really cool fight. Like if he was like an extreme glass cannon where he was super deadly, but he had very little health, that would actually be really cool. But he would have to have like only 5% of the health he has right now for that to make sense. Right now, he's basically a cheated in character that has, you know, perfect power, perfect accuracy, perfect, you know, speed, basically everything. On top of that, in typical Gearbox fashion, you're fighting a lot of bugs in this fight. Sometimes sometimes Voracidous will glitch into a wall, and he'll just freeze in place. Oh, so see, I do get down tier, but luckily, one of the minions was close enough for me to slag and deathmark, and then I was able to get up with the Pyrocaustic. I think that's the only time I got downed. But you're at the mercy of RNG if you don't have a Norfleet. Like I said, I was lucky that a minion was close enough for me to slag. But if not, I would have died there because I didn't have the Fire Norfleet. So, you know, the Pyrocaustic can get it done, but I highly recommend getting a Fire Norfleet. I tried for so long and I never could. But anyway, Voracidous can glitch into a wall and stop moving. He can also just disappear. Like sometimes he'll literally just vanish from the arena. Now, fortunately, it doesn't happen that often, but it is a possibility. So yeah, not much else to talk about. Video's only got 5 minutes left. We're almost to the part where I speed it up and get to the, well, I'll speed it up until I get back to killing blow range. Like I said, guys, don't do this to yourself. Don't torture yourself with this fight. I'm already dreading having to do this again when I do the 100% Zero series. I'll probably do that maybe once I have 1,000 subscribers. Or maybe a bit past that. Because, I mean, the downside to a series like that is that the vast majority of viewers will only watch the first handful of episodes and then they'll drop off. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, that is something I still want to do. Because I can show just a ton of different builds, a ton of different gear. I can show so much stuff. I can show how good sniping is. That series would be a really useful tool for showing people that a lot of their conceptions about this game are not accurate. So here's the sped up part. Like I said, this full fight took like 35 minutes, so if I showed the full fight in normal speed, then like I said, it would just be a very un-algorithm friendly video. It would have horrible retention. Which obviously a video like this is already not going to be great for retention, but which I don't mind to an extent. Like when I did that that dragons farming video where I beat the dragons with a bunch of different builds and stuff. I know that a 67-minute video killing the same boss over and over is not going to be the most algorithm-friendly video, but I did enjoy making it. And I know that some of my viewers will enjoy it because they like to watch that in the background while they play the game and stuff. But yeah, like I said, when we get down to killing blow range, I will slow the fight down. Guys, I think this took between 150 and 200 executes. Oh, I actually got down twice, so fortunately he was close enough to me that I was able to get a second wind. But yeah, anyway guys, a horrible, horrible fight. Gearbox should be sent to prison for this. No idea what was going through their heads when they made this fight. Honestly, I doubt that the 4 best players at Gearbox combined can beat this fight legitimately. So I don't really know what they expected out of people. Even at 72 OP8, I would be highly skeptical if the 4 best players together could have beat this fight without glitches. I might be wrong, but I kind of doubt it. So I really wonder how they expected people to deal with these fights. I also don't understand the thought process behind the Novas, because they instantly health gate you. Now, I don't actually know how much damage they do. They might just be health gating me because I was using like a B shield and stuff. But, you know, regardless, they're extremely punishing to deal with. They deal a lot of damage, they send everybody flying, and they happen too frequently. Like, it's all this stuff together that it's just too much to deal with. Now, is it possible to beat them legitimately? To beat him legitimately? Yeah, but the vast majority of people are not going to be able to do it. So it's just really unfortunate. We're almost to killing blow range. Once I got him to killing blow range, my hands were shaking so bad, guys. Like I said, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done. It also looks like killing blow didn't activate when it should have. Maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like he's well below 1/3 of his health. I don't know. But anyway, so see, that's what I mean. I hit my execute too early, and he was able to jump into me and attack me. So that was really dangerous, and I'm very lucky that I survived that. So you gotta be really careful. Like I said, I was sweating like crazy. I was really nervous at this point. I was starting to choke. You can see I'm spamming through my grenades. Oh, and then I mess up my heal swap. So I was really panicking here, guys. I really did not want to have to redo this shit. And again, that's what he'll do to you if you hit your execute too early. So it's a miracle that I survived there. And then I missed a heal swap. And finally got it there. And again, this is even with Killing Blow and a Legendary Ninja Comm and full melee spec. So even with a 1000% multiplicative damage bonus and all the other bonuses to melee, it still took multiple Killing Blows to finish him off. So just an absolutely ridiculous fight. Like I said, you can see I was choking a lot here. But here, this is the final blow, I think. So he knocks me back. I get my health up twice because he does the Nova freaking twice. Thanks, Gearbox. But you know, you keep at it, you keep practicing, and you'll find that even gods bleed. But there we go. We slay the creature so fearsome that even the very sky above him weeps. That's not actually rain, that's just the sky crying. And yeah, here's my gear. Like I said, this Love Thumper is probably my most prized possession. No bar or anything. And all I got was a non-elemental interfacer. Awesome. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I do hope you enjoyed the video. And I do hope to see you next time. Have a good day, guys.